The vast expanse of space surrounding Earth remained undisturbed for millennia, until the day the Galactic Empire arrived. They came with a quiet hum of technological superiority, a fleet of starships slipping effortlessly into orbit. From their vantage point high above, the Empire's leaders surveyed Earth, a small, blue planet nestled in the distant arm of the galaxy. To them, it was little more than a speck of dust in a universe they believed they had conquered. Primitive. Insignificant. Its people were barely worth noticing. The decision was made swiftly. Earth would be mined for its resources, stripped bare to fuel the ever-growing needs of the Empire. It had no powerful military, no interstellar alliances to defend it. There would be no resistance, no opposition. It was, in the eyes of the Empire, a simple operation. They didn't bother with diplomacy or negotiations. To them, the inhabitants of Earth were lesser beings, mere obstacles standing in the way of their extraction of the planet's valuable minerals. They descended quickly, setting up massive mining operations across the globe. Cities crumbled under the weight of their machines. Forests were flattened, oceans were drilled, and the Earth's crust was pierced by their advanced technology. They didn't care about the environment or the people. They were here for one reason: to extract what they needed. The Empire's machinery tore through the ground with ruthless efficiency, leaving scars across the planet's surface. Meanwhile, the humans could only watch in horror, powerless against the alien invaders. There were murmurs among the people, rumors of strange phenomena that accompanied the arrival of the Empire. It started with small things: an odd shift in the weather, storms that gathered without warning, a sudden increase in seismic activity in regions that had been geologically quiet for centuries. The Empire dismissed these as mere coincidences, anomalies that had nothing to do with their mining efforts. But the humans knew better. Beneath the surface of the Earth, ancient forces stirred. The land itself seemed to rebel against the invasion. Electromagnetic readings from the Empire's equipment began to spike erratically, their machines malfunctioning at the most critical moments. Entire mining operations were halted by unexplained power failures. And yet, the Empire pushed on. To them, Earth was still just a rock full of resources, and no amount of strange occurrences would deter them from their goal. The first major disturbance came deep within a mining site in the mountains. Imperial engineers, while drilling for rare minerals, accidentally unearthed something far older than they could have imagined. A cavern, long hidden beneath layers of rock and soil, emerged. Within it, the remnants of an ancient civilization lay undisturbed. The engineers, thinking it was a simple archaeological find, didn't bother to report it to their superiors. They continued to dig, unaware that they had just crossed a line that should never have been touched. At first, the Empire's scientists dismissed the discovery as unimportant. Earth, after all, was considered a backwater planet. What could it possibly hold that would interest them? The Empire's arrogance blinded them to the reality of what they had unleashed. As the mining continued, strange things began to happen. The ground trembled, fissures opened up in the Earth's crust, and from the depths, an eerie energy began to pulse. The humans could feel it, a sense of something ancient awakening beneath their feet. Across the globe, the signs became harder to ignore. Natural disasters struck in rapid succession: massive earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions. The electromagnetic disruptions grew more intense, interfering with the Empire's communications and navigation systems. Their equipment, which had been flawless in its operation, began to fail in ways they couldn't explain. It was as if the Earth itself was fighting back. And still, the Empire dismissed it all as anomalies, freak occurrences that could be controlled. But not everyone was so blind. A small group of human researchers had been quietly studying the ancient myths and legends passed down through generations. These stories spoke of powerful beings, gods, who had once walked the earth. These gods had been worshipped by long-forgotten civilizations, and the myths suggested that they had been sealed away, deep within the earth, to protect humanity from forces beyond their understanding. The researchers, initially skeptical, couldn't ignore the mounting evidence. The strange weather patterns, the seismic activity, the energy surges, all of it lined up with the ancient texts. The old gods, as they were called, had been dormant for thousands of years, their presence long forgotten by the modern world. But now, with the Empire's ruthless mining operations disturbing the planet's core, it seemed that these gods were beginning to stir once more. Despite their findings, the researchers were powerless to stop the Empire. The invaders had no interest in human myths or warnings. They had come for resources, and they would not leave until they had stripped Earth of everything valuable. Yet, deep down, the researchers knew that something far more dangerous than the Empire was awakening. And if the old gods were to rise, it wouldn't be just the Empire that would be in danger, it would be all of humanity. The signs continued to intensify. Strange lights flickered in the sky, unnatural auroras stretching across the horizon. Animals began to behave erratically, fleeing en masse from certain regions, as if they could sense the danger long before the humans did. In some parts of the world, ancient stone structures that had stood for millennia suddenly began to glow with an unearthly light, as though activated by some unseen force. The Empire took note of these occurrences, but their response was cold and calculated. They increased their mining efforts, believing that if they worked faster, they could extract what they needed and leave before anything more serious happened. But it was already too late. Deep beneath the Earth's surface, a low, almost imperceptible rumble began to grow. It was subtle at first, a mere vibration felt only by those who were close to the epicenter. But soon, the rumble grew into a deafening roar, shaking the very foundations of the Empire's operations. Their machines screeched to a halt, unable to function in the face of the overwhelming energy radiating from the Earth itself. Imperial scientists scrambled to make sense of the readings, but nothing in their advanced technology could explain what was happening. The energy signatures didn't match any known phenomenon. It was as if the Earth had come alive, a living, breathing entity fighting back against the invaders who had dared to exploit it. The humans, watching from the sidelines, could feel the change in the air. Something powerful was awakening, something that had been asleep for far too long. And then, in a single moment, everything changed. The ground beneath the Empire's largest mining site cracked open, a massive fissure splitting the Earth apart. From within, a blinding light erupted, followed by a surge of energy that knocked out every piece of equipment within a 100-mile radius. The Empire's ships, hovering above, suddenly lost all power, plummeting toward the ground in a cascade of fiery destruction. For the first time since their arrival, the Empire felt fear. Their arrogance had led them to believe that Earth was nothing more than a primitive world, ripe for exploitation. But now, they realized too late that they had awoken something far beyond their control. The old gods had returned, and they were not pleased with the invaders who had dared to disturb their slumber. As the dust settled, the humans could only watch in awe as the Empire's machines lay in ruins, their once unstoppable force brought to its knees by the very planet they had sought to conquer. But the humans knew that this was only the beginning. The old gods had awakened, and their wrath was only just starting to unfold. The Empire, blinded by greed and arrogance, had no idea what was coming next. The moment the ancient ruins burst open with a colossal surge of energy, the entire planet trembled. The Earth seemed to exhale after a millennia-long breath, as if it had been waiting for this moment. From the depths of the oceans, from the ancient caverns beneath the surface, and from places long forgotten by human history, the old gods began to rise. These entities, massive and awe-inspiring, had slumbered beneath the Earth's crust, waiting in silence as the world above them changed. But now, disturbed by the Empire's greed, they were awake once more. The awakening was not a gentle one. The Empire's forces, which had arrogantly believed themselves invincible, were completely caught off guard. Their advanced machinery, so flawless in its design, failed almost immediately in the face of the energy released by the old gods. Systems shut down, power grids collapsed, and weapons refused to fire. Soldiers, trained to be fearless, found themselves frozen in terror as the colossal entities emerged, radiating power that defied comprehension. These beings weren't just massive in size, they were cosmic, connected to the very elements of the Earth itself. The Empire's leaders, watching from orbit, could not comprehend what was unfolding below. To them, Earth had always been a primitive planet, a place with no technology capable of posing a threat. And yet, the sight before them was beyond anything they had ever encountered in the vastness of their empire. These were not just ancient creatures, they were protectors, bound to the very essence of the planet. It became clear that the Empire had underestimated not only Earth but the forces that had shaped its history for far longer than any human could remember. Panic swept through the Empire's ranks. Commanders shouted orders that fell on deaf ears, as their soldiers struggled to maintain order in the face of the incomprehensible power of the old gods. Every attempt to fight back was met with failure. The most advanced weapons in the Empire's arsenal, capable of leveling entire planets, were useless against the might of these primordial beings. The energy that pulsed through the old gods rendered the Empire's technology obsolete, as though their weapons were nothing more than toys in the presence of true power. The Empire's leaders, previously so confident in their superiority, found themselves scrambling for answers. What were these beings? How could Earth, a planet they considered beneath their notice, hold such power? Desperation turned to fear, and fear quickly spread through the ranks. The Empire's fleet, hovering above the planet, was now on high alert, ready to respond, but even they knew that their technology was faltering in the presence of the old gods. As the Empire struggled to comprehend the enormity of the situation, humanity began to realize the significance of what was happening. Human leaders, scientists, and mystics, who had been studying the ancient myths for years, stepped forward. They had always suspected that there was something more to Earth's history than what had been written in books, and now their suspicions were confirmed. The old gods were real, and they had once guided humanity in its earliest days, shaping the course of civilizations and protecting the planet from unseen threats. The first contact between humanity and the old gods was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. The old gods, now fully awake, communicated not with words but with a presence that could be felt deep in the minds of those who dared to approach them. It was as if the air itself vibrated with their thoughts, their power flowing through the very ground beneath humanity's feet. Through this strange and profound connection, the truth became clear. The old gods had not been awakened by accident. They had always been there, watching, waiting for the moment when they would be needed once more. The old gods revealed that humanity's ancestors had once shared a deep bond with them, a sacred connection that had allowed them to thrive in a world full of dangers. These ancestors had known the secrets of the Earth's elemental forces, tapping into powers that had long been forgotten by the modern world. The old gods had guided them, protected them, and ensured the survival of the human race. But over time, as civilizations rose and fell, this connection had faded into myth, and the old gods had retreated into the earth to sleep. Now, in the face of the Empire's invasion, that bond was being reawakened. Humanity, though unaware of it, still carried the remnants of that ancient connection. The old gods sensed it in their blood, in the very core of their being. It was a bond that had not been broken, merely forgotten. And as the Empire continued its assault on Earth, that bond grew stronger. The old gods, once protectors, were now ready to share their knowledge and power with the humans once more. The humans, realizing the significance of this revelation, embraced their role in this ancient story. They understood that the old gods were not simply relics of the past, they were the key to their survival. Through the old gods, humanity would gain access to knowledge that had been lost for thousands of years. The gods revealed secrets of the earth, ancient technologies, and elemental powers that humans could harness to defend their planet. It was a partnership, a symbiotic alliance that would turn the tide of the conflict. The humans quickly began to adapt. With the guidance of the old gods, they learned to tap into the latent powers that had been dormant within them for generations. Some discovered they could manipulate the earth's elements, controlling water, fire, air, and stone, while others gained access to the ancient technologies that had been buried beneath the surface for centuries. These abilities, once thought of as myth, became the key to humanity's rising strength. As humanity grew stronger, the Empire's fear deepened. The resilience and adaptability of the humans, combined with the raw, unimaginable power of the old gods, made for a terrifying alliance. The Empire's leaders had once dismissed Earth as a primitive planet, but now, they found themselves facing a force that was not only technologically advanced but deeply connected to the very fabric of the universe itself. The Empire had never faced an enemy like this before, and their desperation began to show. The old gods, for their part, watched as humanity rose to meet the challenge. They had always known that this moment would come, that there would be a time when their protection would be needed once more. Now, as they prepared to unleash their full wrath upon the Empire, they did so with the knowledge that humanity was ready to stand alongside them. The bond between humans and their ancient protectors had been reforged, and with it came a power that even the mighty Galactic Empire could not hope to defeat. As the old gods rose to their full strength, the planet itself seemed to come alive. The air crackled with energy, the ground hummed with power, and the ocean swelled with a force that had not been felt in millennia. Humanity, now fully aware of their role in this ancient battle, stood ready. Together with the old gods, they would strike back against the invaders who had dared to disturb their world. The Empire, blinded by arrogance and greed, had no idea what was about to hit them. The Empire, now desperate to regain control, deployed its full might against Earth. A vast armada of warships descended, blocking out the stars as they prepared to launch an all-out assault. From their vantage point, the Empire's leadership believed that brute force would finally crush the resistance they had so arrogantly dismissed. They had underestimated humanity before, but now they intended to leave nothing to chance. Their strategy was clear: obliterate the planet and take what they came for by force. It would be a decisive victory, or so they thought. What they couldn't comprehend was that Earth was no longer the same vulnerable world they had first encountered. Humanity, now empowered by the ancient knowledge of the old gods, stood ready to meet the Empire head-on. Where once they had been helpless in the face of superior technology, now they had the means to fight back, and more. The old gods, now fully awake and attuned to the planet, lent their cosmic powers to the humans, creating a formidable alliance that even the Galactic Empire had not anticipated. As the Empire's ships began their bombardment, Earth's defense rose in a way that defied all logic. The skies over Earth shimmered with an ethereal energy as the old gods unleashed their might, creating barriers of pure force that deflected the Empire's most powerful weapons. It wasn't just the gods who fought back. Humanity, tapping into the newfound powers granted by their ancient allies, fought with an intensity that shocked their invaders. The planet itself seemed to respond, with storms gathering in the sky, the seas rising in towering waves, and the very ground beneath the Empire's feet turning against them. The battles that followed were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. In space, entire fleets were torn apart by the old gods' cosmic powers, their ships disintegrating as they were hit by waves of pure energy. On the ground, human forces, now armed not just with advanced technology but with the raw elemental forces of the earth, fought back fiercely. Soldiers commanded the oceans, conjured storms, and manipulated the earth's energy, turning the Empire's weapons against them. It was as if the planet itself had become a weapon, wielded by humanity in a final stand for their survival. The Empire's confidence quickly turned to fear. They had never encountered resistance like this before. Every tactic they employed, every weapon they used, was rendered useless in the face of Earth's newly awakened power. They were outmatched, not by technology, but by the ancient forces that had been dormant within the planet for millennia. The Empire's forces, once believed to be invincible, were dismantled with shocking speed and precision. What was once a show of overwhelming power turned into a rout, as ship after ship fell to Earth's defenses. Amid the chaos of battle, a deeper revelation began to unfold. Certain humans, scattered among the fighting, began to exhibit abilities that even they didn't fully understand. As the old gods' influence spread, it became clear that some humans had inherited more than just ancient knowledge. There were those whose ancestors had been directly connected to the old gods, and within them lay dormant powers that were now awakening. These individuals, who had once been ordinary, found themselves commanding the elemental forces with a mastery that went beyond anything taught. They could summon the winds, command the oceans, and even control the very core of the Earth's energy. This discovery shifted the balance of power even further. The humans who had unlocked these abilities became key figures in the battle, using their newfound powers to decimate entire divisions of the Empire's forces. These warriors, empowered by their genetic link to the old gods, became living weapons, turning the tide of battle decisively in Earth's favor. The Empire, which had always believed itself superior, now faced a force that was beyond their understanding. Their arrogance had blinded them to the possibility that humanity, with its ancient ties to the planet, could rise to become something more. As the Empire's forces crumbled, their leadership was thrown into disarray. For the first time, they considered the possibility of defeat. In a desperate attempt to salvage what was left of their empire, they reached out to humanity with an offer of truce. They believed that, perhaps, they could negotiate their way out of annihilation, using diplomacy to end the conflict before it was too late. But humanity, now guided by the old gods, had no interest in negotiating with those who had come to enslave and exploit their world. The response was swift and decisive. The offer of truce was rejected, and instead, the humans prepared for a final confrontation. The Empire's strongest warriors, their most elite forces, were sent in one last desperate attempt to turn the tide. But they were met not only by humanity's champions but by the old gods themselves, whose power dwarfed anything the Empire could muster. The battle was fierce, but brief. With the combined might of humanity and the old gods, the Empire's last stronghold was shattered, and their forces were obliterated. In the aftermath of the final confrontation, the Galactic Empire began to collapse. Word of Earth's victory spread quickly throughout the galaxy, reaching planets that had long been under the Empire's control. These oppressed worlds, inspired by humanity's triumph, began to rise up in rebellion. The once mighty Empire, which had stretched across countless star systems, began to fracture from within. The leadership that had ruled with an iron fist now found themselves without the power to maintain control. One by one, the planets that had been subjugated for so long broke free. Humanity, now allied with the old gods, emerged as a dominant force in the galaxy. No longer were they the primitive backwater species that the Empire had once dismissed. With their newfound knowledge, abilities, and the protection of the old gods, they became the defenders of freedom across the stars. Earth, once seen as insignificant, had become the center of a new galactic order, where the oppressed could look for leadership and protection. The old gods, having fulfilled their purpose, began to retreat back into the earth, their presence fading but their legacy enduring.